Hello, welcome back to Cody and the Cinema. And today for Earth Day, Happy Earth Day, I'm covering Them, the 1954 science fiction creature feature classic. And if you're unfamiliar with this film and its premise, giant ants, giant ants are loose and attacking people and stuff. And what sounds like a ridiculous premise is actually executed very well, intelligently, and I think it's a pretty good classic that's held up really well over time. So our story starts out, it's supposed to be taking place in New Mexico. If you've ever been to White Sands National Park or that area, you might be familiar with it, but that's where the story takes place, because the idea is that some years ago nuclear testing was done and now these ants have grown, but you don't know that at first. We have in the opening shot this helicopter, and it's sort of covered and hidden by some Joshua trees, because although this is supposed to take place in New Mexico, it was actually shot in California. This part works well, in my opinion. These Joshua trees in the black and white format, I think it helps build some of the atmosphere the film's going for. It reminded me in those opening shots and in those opening scenes of this movie, Detour, a classic that's on the Criterion Channel. Them, as of this video, is on the Criterion Channel as well. And it kind of reminded me of that. This is a film noir-esque movie that's pretty good, pretty fast watch as well. And as the police are investigating, and there's helicopters, they see this little girl who's just wandering out in the desert. The wind's blowing, it's this stark, unforgiving landscape, and she just, despite that, is just walking around as if everything's completely not normal, and there's nothing she can do about it. When they do discover her, she won't speak. It takes a while to get her talking again, and the officers and so forth begin to discover this truth about the ants. The FBI gets involved. The movie's best character, who is Dr. Medford, the movie's best character, Dr. Medford, is played by Edmund Gwenn. And you may recognize that name because if you're a Christmas movie fan, and I know that some of you that follow my channel are Christmas movie fans, he was the great Santa Claus in that black and white Miracle on 34th Street. He's perfect as the doctor. And what he does in this movie is he investigates, learns about the biology of what's going on, the earth science, all of that sort of thing. And he realizes that what's probably happened is that nuclear radiation has caused these creatures, these ants, to mutate and become much larger. This is what this is probably going to be covered, if it hasn't already, in the Fallout series that Amazon made off of those video games. So you can kind of see how this influence, has permeated throughout media, right? Video games, movies. And why I like this movie and why I like this character so well, Edmund Gwenn does a good job breaking down for us, first of all, how these ants came to be like in the way that they are. And also, on top of that, he's able to give us an explanation and scaffold this situation in such a way that we care about it, we're invested in it, and it's plausible and it's serious in tone. I know that there are plenty of old creature features, and I like some of them where the creature is silly and dumb and we just sort of laugh at it. That's not really what this movie is. So to be able to sell a concept like giant ants attacking, and that to be scary, if nothing else on an intellectual, scientific level, that is a good job of the film, and that the film does. And I think that this actor was perfect for doing that. Early on, one of the best shots in the film that I saw was there is an investigator. He's going around. He's looking at this store that's been completely ransacked. It makes no sense as to how this happened. And the camera shows us the scene from inside the store, or what's left of it, and you can see him kind of pull out his gun, and he slowly walks around the back, and you kind of get a view of him through the window, and then you hear sounds and spookiness, and you'll see it's a great shot. And this film, to my understanding, was originally meant to be shot not only in color, but also in 3D. And I just think it works better as this black and white horror piece that it became. Another piece that works well is actually how the monsters were created. So there was a kind of a mix of different practical effects, and you get a good sense of the proportion and the size and the dimensions of these ants. There's a scene where there's an ant in the foreground, and behind that there's a helicopter, and the way that that's shot, it makes the ants seem like a large living creature. And it's refreshing that this is old enough that that wasn't filmed in CGI. And you might think that makes it less realistic, but most of these shots of these ants have held up really well, I think, especially the underground parts. And there are some of this stuff that was shot underground. I mean, I felt like I was watching one of the Alien movies, specifically the second Aliens, because of the way that that looks and like I said, in the underground sections. Don't want to spoil too much there, but you might kind of get that feeling, and you might think, oh, that's where this director got that idea. Maybe, maybe not. The sound effects of the ants are really cool. I was reading a little bit about this. It was some kind of a mix of different animals, different bird sounds that go on there. The one thing that I about this movie that probably in part keeps it being less famous than Godzilla, which is a similar concept, nuclear testing or destruction causes a monster to be born. The ants are not as sympathetic as Godzilla is in that first original classic. And on top of that, it was a little easier for filmmakers to use the concept of Godzilla across multiple films. There is a run-of-the-mill romance in here. It does not take away from anything. It doesn't particularly add anything. It just doesn't get in the way, which is nice. But overall, this works really well. There's lots of good stuff to like about this. I don't have any real criticism of this film. I just like it a lot. And to me, I read this. This was a cautionary tale about what happens when we have a spot in our environment, in our land, in our country, and we don't think it's useful. We don't see people there. We don't see anything there that we care about as a society. So we test on it. We bomb it. We do whatever we want to do to it because it doesn't matter to us specifically. And now we have a problem that eventually reaches our city or our neighborhoods. And that's what happens here. This bombing that's supposed to have taken place, somewhere remote, comes to haunt many people, and many sacrifices have to be made as a result of that. It also functions as an entertaining detective story. I love the way we get like clue A, clue B, clue C. That's great. And like I said, it's all really held together by Edmund Gwynn's great performance. That's my basic thoughts on this film. Let me know what your reaction is to it. As always, please like and subscribe. Did you love the movie? Did you think it was dumb? Did you hate it? Did you kind of like it? Anyway, see you next time.